I feel very grateful that I have the opportunity to get into the shoes. I've enjoyed it so much. Both have had very different reaction to the film.
Did Gal Gadot just throw shade at Rachel Zegler? Fans think so. After months of speculation and one oddly missing Instagram tag, the Snow White drama is bubbling over. Behind the smiles and staged red carpets, was there real tension? Gadot's subtle response is setting the internet on fire. It all started with a single Instagram post. On March 21, 2025, Rachel Zegler shared a touching message to celebrate the release of Snow White. Her caption was filled with heartfelt thanks, behind-the-scenes photos, and kind words for the team she worked with for over 4 years. She called it life-changing. She smiled in throwback pictures. She even described her journey as emotional. But the moment fans scrolled through the post, one thing stood out like a sore thumb. There was no mention of Gal Gadot. Gal, who literally played the evil queen and shared top billing in the film, was completely absent, not tagged, not named, and not shown. The silence was loud. And the internet, as always, picked up on it fast. Was it a mistake? Was it intentional?
You know them personally, their contact.
People started sharing side-by-side images from the post, pointing out the lack of even a single selfie with Gal. For a tribute that celebrated nearly half a decade of work, fans found the omission strange and maybe even a little shady. Was this just a forgotten tag? Or the first public clue that something behind the scenes wasn't quite as magical as Disney had hoped? Once the post went live, fans didn't just scroll past. They analyzed it. And then the detective work began. First came the red carpet photos. In image after image, Rachel and Gal stood side by side. But the body language was stiff. The smiles were small. The chemistry? Nowhere to be found. Fans noticed how far apart they stood in group shots and how often they avoided direct eye contact.
Treats wildlife and all of the people that she meets.
Online threads started popping up with side-by-side comparisons, zoom-ins, and speculative commentary. It felt like something was being covered up. And this wasn't just an Instagram mystery. People started rewatching interviews from press tours and promotional videos. In one clip, Rachel playfully comments that Gal seemed mad during a scene, but Gal was actually FaceTiming her kids. Harmless on the surface, but some took it as another subtle jab. Theories exploded. Were they faking their friendship for the cameras? Were they just professionals pretending to get along? It became clear to viewers that the usual fairy tale sparkle wasn't quite there. What could have caused such tension? Fans were determined to find out. And suddenly, nobody was talking about costumes or special effects. They were busy decoding smiles and silences. Whatever was going on, it seemed deeper than just missed photo ops. And fans were sure it was only the tip of the iceberg.
It's the most fun you can have in a movie theater. I really do believe that.
One possible explanation? Their lives couldn't be more different. Gal Gadot is 39, a mother of 4, and has been married for years. She's seasoned, grounded, and often seen bringing her family energy to the red carpet. Rachel Zegler, on the other hand, is 23. She's just now rising into full-fledged stardom. From apartment hunting to award shows, she's balancing fame and finding her place. On paper, they played opposite roles in a Disney fairy tale. In real life, their worlds were just as far apart. During one behind-the-scenes moment, Rachel teased that Gal looked upset after filming a dramatic scene. But it turns out Gal wasn't upset at all. She was just jumping on a quick FaceTime with her kids. It was a lighthearted moment, but it exposed a bigger truth. These two actresses were operating in different lanes. Gal's focus was likely on getting through long days while juggling motherhood. Rachel's focus was embracing her breakout moment. It's the kind of difference that can make even casual conversations feel awkward. Imagine working side by side, sharing scenes, but never truly syncing in real life. Sometimes it's not about arguments or outbursts. It's about being in such different places in life that friendship just doesn't find room to grow. Could that be the real reason behind the quiet tension? Fans sure think so. While nothing explosive ever leaked from set, the silence itself became suspicious. Rumors began to swirl, tiny whispers about off-screen tension that never quite died down. People who worked on the project hinted at chilly interactions and a just-get-through-it atmosphere. For a film built on fairy tales, this was not the dream team many expected. Sources claimed the mood on set wasn't hostile, just distant, cold, professional, but far from friendly. It's said that Rachel came in bright-eyed and hopeful, eager to put her own mark on Snow White. But Gal, a veteran of blockbuster sets, approached things more by the book. That contrast and energy might have made even the simplest collaboration feel forced. The emotional core of the film might have demanded chemistry, but real-life connections? Apparently lacking. One person allegedly described it as two people sharing a stage but not a story. No fights, no yelling, just silence. The kind of distance that speaks volumes, especially when it shows up in photo ops and skipped social media mentions. And as fans kept digging, they became convinced something had clearly gone down. Whatever the root cause, it was enough to turn what should have been a celebration into a guessing game. And that game was far from over. Back in 2021, when Rachel Zegler was announced as Snow White, it sparked one of the biggest conversations in Disney's recent history. Fans were excited. Rachel's voice was stunning, her talent undeniable, and director Mark Webb praised her as a once-in-a-generation performer. But others raised questions, mainly about whether this version of Snow White strayed too far from the original. The classic character had always been described as having skin as white as snow. It was even in the name, but Disney had bigger plans. They wanted to reimagine the story for a new generation. Rachel fully embraced the role. She celebrated the representation it brought and proudly stood behind her casting. And while Gal stayed relatively quiet, she supported the project publicly, appearing in
the first time to play a villain.
appearing in promos and showing up for premieres. Still, the difference in how they handled the noise was clear. Rachel faced it head-on. Gal took the quiet, composed route. That contrast may have added a new layer of distance between the two. As the internet debated casting choices, reworked plot lines, and what Snow White should mean in the modern world, the spotlight kept returning to the leads. Could the controversy surrounding the character have created extra pressure, and maybe even tension, between the stars? The answer wasn't clear, but the silence between Rachel and Gal spoke louder than any press release. With all this swirling tension, you'd expect Disney to put on a massive premiere to drown it out. But surprisingly, they did the opposite. Instead of going big, they went subtle. There was no glittering press junket, no massive celebration, just a quiet rollout. Insiders whispered that the studio wanted to avoid tough questions. Why weren't the stars doing more joint interviews? Why did the red carpet feel so muted? It wasn't long before fans started piecing things together. Disney didn't want headlines about behind-the-scenes drama. They wanted people focused on the film. But instead, the mystery surrounding Rachel and Gal only grew. And with each passing day, their silence created more questions than answers. Sometimes the biggest stories in Hollywood aren't the ones being told. They're the ones being hidden. And this felt like one of them. March 15th, 2025. The Los Angeles premiere finally arrived. Both Rachel and Gal walked the red carpet. They smiled, they posed, they stood side by side. But for fans who'd been following the drama, it didn't look like a fairy tale moment. It looked like a silent standoff. The smiles were tight, the posture was polite, but the warmth, nowhere to be seen. People began screenshotting moments from the red carpet, pointing out the awkward spacing and the lack of natural chemistry. Rachel later gave interviews encouraging women to support one another in Hollywood. She talked about how female stars often get pitted against each other. Powerful message, but one thing was missing. She never mentioned Gal. That silence became the final puzzle piece fans were waiting for. Was she calling out the rumors or subtly confirming them? Nobody knows for sure. But sometimes what's not said says it all. So now we ask, was this just a case of two people drifting apart? Or was it the quiet unraveling of a behind-the-scenes conflict Disney hoped no one would notice? From a forgotten Instagram tag to distant red carpet poses, every move has sparked a new theory. And while Gal Gadot hasn't released any explosive statement, her silence and her absence from Rachel's celebration post might have spoken louder than words ever could. Rachel, too, hasn't directly addressed the situation. Her vague responses about women supporting each other in Hollywood only added more fuel to the fire. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. It's not loud, it's not chaotic. It's a puzzle told through glances, gaps, and missing names. Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to watch our next video for even more behind-the-scenes tea.